Oh, can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? And the microphone's making movement now, so I guess that's a start. And so I'm assuming you can hear me, but I can't really, it's hard for me to test. Is it okay now? Fail. Let me just check. And that's not even coming up on YouTube. Is it okay now? I will start again if that's the case. So, hoping it's okay now. I'm not getting confirmation at the moment. Anyway, so I started without sound, but luckily it was only a couple of minutes. I'm now back. Okay, so based on this chart, I was looking for a swing fail of this daily demand. Maybe I'll just start again on this chart. Okay, so the bigger picture chart. So we were looking for this daily demand to hold because that's holding up the whole consolidation, and it's not looking great at the moment. I'm really concerned that nobody can hear me, so I'm wondering if I should just get somebody to check that before I restart. Can someone check sound on my stream? No viewers at the moment, so I need to see if whoever that was who told me there was no sound is coming back, and then I can restart. Look at a few things while I'm waiting for somebody to confirm. Okay, it's working. Thank you. Okay, we will start again. Okay, so this daily demand was holding up the whole consolidation, and obviously now we're sort of starting to break through it. Like if this closes as a swing failure, then I'm not too concerned. It's not ideal, but if this closes down here, then I'm really going to be looking more aggressively for shorts. The other real critical thing is going to be the monthly close. So let me just remove my mess so you can see. So we had this weak monthly demand that was confirmed with the January close, weak because it closed the body over this candle, but it was only a swing fail of the high. So I did expect this low to be taken out. I thought we'd actually get more of a retracement first off this being a monthly demand, but obviously not, and the market isn't really supporting that overall, like for example the indices are falling, etc. So yeah, if we get a close down here, then we're going to create a monthly supply, and we've got 2 days until that happens, so that's concerning. We did have the same happen here, but the close was much higher, so it ended up as a very weak supply, and therefore then went back through it. So it'll be interesting to see the monthly close in a couple of days. I'm just doing a quick stream today, just to update what's going on. So obviously now I was looking at the 85k level because that's where a couple of the walls were on Coinbase and Binance, and we've obviously now we've gone down to 83,200, so we've gone quite a lot through that now, and the next significant wall was at 80k. So I'll show you some of the data that I look at. So this is trading light, and that was the 85k wall that I was watching, and then the next we've got a couple of walls in between. Let me look at Coinbase. If I hover over it, should tell me. Famous last words, should tell me. Okay, so there's a small wall, 68 at 81,000, and there's another smaller one at 82,000, and then I think a more significant size one, 132 at 80k. And then Binance has a large one at 80k as well. And what we can quite often do, so yesterday the price was massively held up by a lot of walls on Binance. There was a whole stack of walls, but they've all been pulled out today. except for the 85k one, but we've just run straight through that. Yeah, so that was kind of fairly obvious. So with hindsight, I did look for like a potentially aggressive long for a higher low, but we didn't get it. Okay, try to go back to my normal chart, which is now obviously going to be slow at loading. Well, this is fun. Always fun to stare at a black screen. Don't know why it's not loading. Ah, here we go. Finally. So yeah, it's not overly surprising that we've taken stops below this daily, but we need to see a close back inside, and then I need to see obviously some supply broken. And at the moment, I think on the lower time frames, it's looking like we'll create an 8-hour supply in here. But we need to see. But if this can close as a swing failure, then we can potentially get a move back up into those higher levels. And even the higher levels are a bit challenging, you know, obviously we've got this trend line. We took some stops, so the difficulty we had on Friday with the IBIT news and also with some BlackRock movements was that the high didn't really happen anywhere that I particularly wanted it to. It had taken out the previous week's high, which is fine, but then it had a 2-day supply just above, so this middle black cross that it didn't quite tap, which is where I was hoping to get the higher time frame short. And then since then we've made, you know, we've made a 5-day supply, a 4-day supply, there's a 4-hour inside. So I need to look at some of these levels again, and again I was waiting to do that until I could see where the low was put in, because historically I've spent loads of time trying to figure out where I would look for shorts if we revisited, and then we end up never revisiting. So I don't want to waste loads of time doing that if this is just going to fall off a cliff now. But yeah, so if we can't close back inside the range, and ideally even above, you know, 89k today, then I'm going to be quite concerned. But that's really what I'm looking for. We've also got NVIDIA earnings at I think 10 p.m. So yeah, we need to watch what that might do, because that potentially is going to affect the stock market. And what we are seeing at the moment is the stock market falling, and Bitcoin is basically following. So kind of all the TradFi is potentially helping drive this along. Unfortunately, while we've been seeing these sort of big up moves on the stock market, Bitcoin doesn't mirror the up moves, but is quite happily mirroring the down moves. It's hard to know if that's coincidental or if it's correlation or causation, but anyway, this also is looking, so at the moment S&P, again, hide my drawing so you can see, you know, it closed very slightly over the monthly. But again, if this is going to close below 5886 or thereabouts on the monthly, that's not great. We do have a monthly zone just below, and that wasn't quite tapped before. So I'm not overly concerned about the stocks as yet. They clearly are slowing down in momentum, but we haven't actually broken any demand for it to be a potentially bigger move down. However, I can't say it's not looking slightly ropey at this point. It's clearly dying off in the upward momentum. So yeah, we'll have to see. You know, and again, it's still in weekly demand here. There's a weekly below, and it's still this whole consolidation here is being held by a weekly demand at the base. The major issue on stocks also is that we actually made a weekly supply, which we hadn't, not on NASDAQ, but on S&P and on the Dow. I think NASDAQ's made probably 4- and 5-day supply now. So it's going to be kind of interesting what NVIDIA results do to this today, because this could, if that causes a massive drop, hopefully it'll cause an upward move because we are at support. But obviously support can get broken, so it's possible that NVIDIA could drive a break in support, and that would potentially be not very good for the whole market, and also for Bitcoin. But yeah, again, NVIDIA, you're saying the same thing. We had aggressive up moves for most of last year and the year before, but now we're kind of slowing down in momentum at the highs. But similarly, you know, we did slow down in momentum here and then started another push in April. So it's possible this is just slowing down, going to get some consolidation before another move. So we'll have to see, but we're following, yeah, so Bitcoin is very much following that at the moment. Just watch this bounce as it happens. I was going to show some of the data. So I've already shown you where the walls were. This is assuming my computer doesn't decide to not load. I'm running at 100% CPU again. I really need a new computer. So we can see another little wall's been thrown in there on Coinbase, but yeah, so we've run through that 85k wall, and we just need to see where we're going to continue, whether we're going to continue from there. Tensor charts I looked at earlier as well, and it also didn't have any particular, nothing's going to load, that's not going to be very helpful here. Yeah, tensor charts didn't have, it showed the larger 85k wall, but it didn't show any smaller walls of like individuals. So I have two sets of data I have on tensor charts, which is obviously not going to open just to spite me. I think none of it's going to open. Sorry, I'm just not sure what to do now, because if this isn't opening, then this is one of the least important data sets that I actually wanted to talk about here. Okay, so the liquidity heat map is opening, and Tensor's notoriously slow anyway, so yeah, and again you can see we've gone through 85k wall as a large 85k wall, also one at 84,500 and another one at 83,500. So we've run through three lots of walls there, shown on the Binance heat map. And again, it's got another large one at 82,500. So it's looking like it wants to drop down again. The liquidation heat map I'm going to have to reload. That will have changed now. Let me see if I can reload that and if it's actually going to take its time or be quick at reloading. Okay, so yeah, I mean the liquidations, we're going to need to look much higher time frame now, because obviously we're falling off. In fact, even the 3 days isn't going to do it, because we're obviously falling off a major level. So there's a lot of liquidations significantly higher now, and there's not much down here. And really, when I looked at longs and short sides, obviously there are a lot of longs going in. We're not getting many people shorting at the current levels though, which isn't ideal, because you want people to be shorting and or spot buying for price to be pushed back up again. So that's not ideal. Then we have this bull market peak signals checklist, which somebody shared with me a while ago, and I haven't used before, but I just thought I'd keep an eye on it and see if any of the indicators started showing to sell, but none of them. Everything's still in a yeah, this is not the top mode. But also, yeah, like I say, I don't know what these are. I don't know how lagging these are, and I haven't looked back at the history. I think you have to. It does have historical data, but you'd have to look back at every indicator individually. So I don't know how accurate this would have been at previous tops, and how long potentially after that it would have. Yeah, how long potentially after it would have they would have triggered, after you actually see what the top is. Scalpex is another thing I look at. Market order flow, very strong sell. I mainly just look at this for fear and greed index it gives you, and then what the open interest is doing. So you can see here open interest is now really spiking on this drop. I'll get to more data on that in a moment. We've got the Coinbase Premium Index, so this is now gone negative. So again, when Coinbase and spot buying is pushing the price up, obviously we're going down now, but always when Coinbase is heavily buying, then we'd normally see the premium positive, or there being a premium rather than a discount to other exchanges. So again, this is still very negative, so nothing's really saying buy at the moment. The long shorts, obviously we're heavily long, but again, that's not ideal really. Like, and I think I've looked back, and it's kind of hard to judge if you look at the history of this. Like, sometimes we're at a bottom when it tops out, and other times we're not. So I don't think it's a very reliable indicator on its own, but we are at least very, very heavily long at the moment. We're now almost 2 times or 2-to-1 ratio. And on this is a CoinGlass website, which is obviously just a slightly different data set. It's hard to know the most accurate data sets, but this is also up to very, very heavily long from an account perspective, but more short, or more to the short side. Probably need to refresh this page as well, but more to the short side on the taker buy sell volume. Funding rates were still fairly flat last I looked, and seem to still be quite flat now. Slightly more short on BIBIT, which is interesting. And again, I have another 2 sets of data for funding rates, and I have never checked to see which one's more accurate. But again, these are all very flat. These are longs paying shorts. Then I look at Coinalyze data, and then this really shows me. So this is the Coinbase chart. So it shows me the Coinbase CVD, which is obviously falling. It shows me the aggregated spot CVD, which is also falling. So falling is obviously supporting this drop down at the moment. And then the CVD, the futures CVDs, which are also both dropping significantly. Then on the bottom we have aggregated open interest, and we saw that kind of come up quite a lot on this drop as all the longs were going in. And it was, yeah, it's difficult. So when I look at this, I kind of generally look like if we've got a lot of, if we've got a CVD that's dropping and open interest going up, that tends to imply people are starting to short the bottom. But I'm actually not seeing that on EXO. So EXO again is another one that's potentially pretty slow to load. So I might give this a moment so I can actually show you. But EXO chart shows the net longs and shorts. So taking its time opening, yeah, I'm not sure if this one's going to open because it's so data heavy and my computer's so weak at the moment. But yeah, I'm not really seeing so far. We had a lot of movement in net longs and shorts yesterday when we had the drop happening, but since the drop's happened, it's just very much gone sideways. So we're not seeing people shorting at this level, but nor are we really seeing people going long at this level. This is obviously not going to load now, so I might just leave it. But that's what I look at anyway, in conjunction with the Coinalyze charts, just to see. But the real thing that's been very much of interest has been the ETF data. So this is the Arkham website. This is free data, so you can go in and you can, if you go to dashboard, and you can see I've got my dashboards, but if you go into explore dashboards, you can then find, this is one that Arkham have actually written, US spot Bitcoin ETF entities flows. And I'm still not fully across what this is. I don't know if this is flows, this is all sells and buys, or if there are a lot of transfers involved in here. I'm kind of comparing it to my other data sets, and it's not been consistent either way. But what I am noticing on this, and what has been very consistent over the last 2-3 days, or 2 days this week and then last week, is a lot of negative flows from all the ETFs. And it's ramped up again today. Yesterday had quite a few. I'll show the aggregated data in a minute, but this, I was showing you most recently 58 minutes ago, Wisdom Tree sent to Coinbase Prime Deposit 138 Bitcoin, and I assume that means it's a sell. Bitwise similarly, or Bitwise has got to a wallet. It's got a couple to different wallets and then one to Kraken. So again, like I say, I'm not 100% sure these are sells as such. Certainly some of them are. And then when I look at the data set that I get, so this Farside Investors, so there's 2 options. There's Farside Investors, and then there's bitcoinstrategyplatform.com, which is this one, which is obviously not loading again. But go back to Farside. So this shows the aggregated net flows, but you only get it after the end of the day or the next day, as the data gets uploaded. And it says that this data is automated, but I'm not sure where it's automated from. But it's not like they're not liable for any errors or inaccuracies. But this is kind of what I've been using more than anything. And I actually do need to reload this because I haven't loaded it on the computer today. Just going to light a cigarette quickly. So you can see on yesterday, so the 26th today, so that's obviously not filled yet in the green line. And the 25th of February, you can see we had 1,100 million. I think these are in this table as in millions, yep. So 1 billion sells yesterday from ETFs or net outflows. And every single one of them selling. And I think that's the first time we've actually seen that. Normally we see a bit of a mix. And I think it's probably the largest we've seen. So let me see. So if you go click at the bottom, it shows you all the data since the start of last year. So we can scroll through this and have a quick look. But I'm pretty sure this is the largest or yesterday was the largest outflow day that we've had. I can see a couple of 200s, 300s in there. But it was a 600 from 19th of December. That was one of the big sell days we've had. But yeah, there was nothing as big as yesterday in all the time. And today I think it's going to be even bigger. So yesterday I haven't added them up, but yesterday I was watching. Oh, this is rather annoying with the not loading. But yesterday I was watching. Okay, yeah, I was watching these transfers come through. Okay, so it's open, but it's got a bit of a gap on the page. But I was watching these transfers come through on the Arkham website, and there really weren't that many that I saw compared to the amount of sells there were. And today there really are a huge amount. We go back and look at what the chart's doing, see if we've dropped further now. Yeah, so it's still held that low from when I first started talking. Yeah, so from a high time frame perspective, you know, I also said, so I had two potential levels, and it was difficult because there are so many, there's always confluence to where you may or may not buy. So this is the first 4 hour level below that consolidation, so it was a level that could get picked up for a bounce back into the range. Then down here we had a CME gap, we've got a 12-hour demand, and also I believe there's a point of control there. And then we're running down into 3-month demand down here, and then it becomes obviously higher probability longs in the 70s, or 70s and 60s here. But obviously most people are hoping we're not going to fall that down there that quickly. But you know, when we come up this quickly over a few days, there's no reason we're not going to fall down that quickly. But I think it's going to be quite interesting what NVIDIA does today. So yeah, you can see I put on my comment on here that we have, there was a 61 fib, I think only measuring from the breakout, and 4 hour demand, it's high risk. There's another 4 hour at 80k with a naked point of control. Then there's a 12-hour demand at 75k with the weekly naked point of control and a CME gap, so FML. But again, I don't suggest trying to knife catch any of this. Wait for your low time frames, you know, as of yesterday. So I'll show the. Let's have a quick look at CME. So CME is looking similar. Obviously, like I say, we've got that gap down at 77k, which is of interest. Korea's, obviously, I wanted this alignment between Korea and the US dollar pair, and we're kind of getting that, although Korea is now a bit higher again because it's sort of holding this level, but because of the wick that it's had through it, I don't know how good this demand is here. US dollar dominance, we've got up in 2 month supply. It's obviously, it made a 4 hour supply there, but it's gone straight through it. So we've got this US dollar dominance up in 2 month supply, and it's obviously not we would have expected a quick reaction off there, but we haven't got it. So again, it's still moving. And there's a lot of chop. The difficulty with the US dollar dominance that I've said previously, like I did want it down here, but this obviously could be a giant double bottom. We also didn't quite, I've got an alert here for 3 month supply. We didn't quite test the 3 month supply here. We had a wick that took out various stops to the left, but didn't quite hit that level. So it's possible that this is going to run to the top of the range now. And almost certainly, and again, the issue here is if we're holding up here for the next couple of days, it's going to create a monthly demand. But it's kind of chopping in a sideways range, but yeah, that monthly demand will make me more bullish on this and therefore more bearish on the market as a whole. And as I say, similar for for Bitcoin itself. Like if we end up with a strong monthly supply on Bitcoin, it's just not going to be good. What else? I think those are the critical things for Bitcoin at the moment. And yeah, when we've got this chop through here, you really just need to wait and see the lower time frames and see what it offers. Still trying to hold here, I can see, but it's not a particularly good level. It's having run through 84k on just below 84k on CME. So on the lower time frame, so I had a really nice short from the weekend. And then obviously the last two longs, just sort of last hurrah level, failed dismally, and then I was looking for a swing fail initially of this level. Where's that? 89k. We did get a 12-hour close above there, but then it dropped straight back down after. And then similarly, so I put in a possibility of a long entry today. There was an hourly demand in there, but I did say it was low probability because it hadn't broken through supply. And then the second point of interest was this level, and looking for a swing fail of that level, which so far we're not getting. We're running through some low time frame zones there. So yeah, that was the low time frame there, and then so Ether is the other. So how's Ether looking? So Ether again, like I remember I've said that, you know, Korea was very important. Korea had much cleaner price action. It's got a bit of a gap in that now, which I think is just a data error. And I was looking for Ether to come down. It had held on a 4-hour demand up here. Make the chart bigger. This was holding on a 4-hour demand, and I said I wanted it back in the 2-week demand. I'd also said that this whole zone isn't a strong zone, and that it could very easily at least not bounce off the top, but drop inside it. Would have been nice if we'd had a bit more of a bounce at this level. It did yesterday, but again, just didn't get back up past supply. But this whole zone is a weak zone. The Korea pair is also significantly higher. So the US dollar pair has wicked down to this kind of area. But the Korea pair on this is still obviously significantly higher. So the US dollar pair, again, we had the monthly demand. Again, I said that was weak. We wicked all the way to the bottom of that, but I think just on it by a hair made a higher low, 2082. Yeah, so by $3, we didn't take out that low. Then I said I would be looking for a retest around this area of this circle. So obviously that's happening now. We got a bit of a bounce off it yesterday, but it hasn't held. I mean, this is just the golden fib zone for a retracement of that move. If we look back here, which was a similar type thing, you know, we had the bounce, we had a couple of pushes up, and then it came back down. It did come a lot deeper, so it is possible this comes a lot deeper. The other issue on this is the CME again didn't wick. So while the US dollar pair actually wicked down to 2080, so it wicked down almost down here, but CME was significantly higher, but then also hasn't taken out this double bottom here. So it's still possible that this runs. I mean, it's possible we get a swing fail of this low, which I probably should have looked at earlier. So 2262 is a possibility for Ether, and I have alerted. So yeah, on the lower time frame again, I was looking at the retest of this monthly level on Ether. But again, you know, really when we're coming down with this much momentum, it's guessing. So we really need to wait for the low time frames to confirm any bounce at this point. You know, none of these zones are clean or decent, and none of them are strong. And I've said that repeatedly on Ether, and nobody likes to hear it, but I said it all the way back up the top that I was potentially looking at this being a double top, that this monthly demand wasn't strong for a bounce, and that while I had an alert off the top of it, this wasn't a strong zone. You know, ideally I wanted a bounce up to here, to 3k or so, or 3 to 3.5k before a drop, but obviously we're not getting that, but we might just get some consolidation first before that move up to there. But yeah, needs a little bit more time. Nothing more else. I did add another alert actually on this low, just in case it comes and it does want to swing fail those lows, so it's just worth watching. Ether on the low time frame is basically the same as what I said yesterday. I wonder what that line is there. Is that just a line that I put in? Okay, interesting. So that's the 61 fib on, where are we? We are on the linear. The log is a bit lower, yeah. So this is, we're now exactly hitting the 61 fib, so that's kind of interesting. So there is an A level where this low has been found, but this is only the fib, like I say, from the bottom of the last up move. It is not from the bottom of the consolidation that we had all the way down here. That's the bigger fib, and so the 61 fib from the bottom will take us to this 4-day demand that's just above the 3-month level. But there's a 61 fib at current price and it was just one of the reasons that I put this 4-hour possibility of an entry in there. But yeah, there's not much more I can say on this. I just need to see how a little bit more how it plays out, and whether we're going to make a monthly supply. And the real critical thing is whether we're going to make a monthly supply. Ether was the same, so again, I've kind of looked at where I want to short this, but again, there's just a few too many levels above. So again, we didn't get that test of the daily supply in here that I wanted, which I still have alerted. It's now got an 8-hour below, and then this 4-day. But I'll think about that a bit more once again I see where the bottom is and I can see where the fibs are. So you can see now we're down in, so I had this circle and these 2 possible entries which I've shared previously. So we're sort of in an area that is worth watching. It might create 8 or 12-hour supply, so be careful of that if you're looking for longs at this point. There was a 4-hour demand, so I did add a possible long in there. I did say it was early, and from a fib perspective, even fibbing just from the bottom yesterday to the top, was that yesterday or this morning, this was still too aggressive. And I also said we could well take stops at least under that 2360 level, but in fact we've taken stops and just made a new low at this point. So yeah, again, in an area of interest, this monthly level obviously is in previous year open is an interesting level that might get a bounce. So we just need to see it a little bit more, and it's below that, it's just really wicky. And if we do run deeper, then I'll be looking at this weekly demand down here, potentially taking out that low into the weekly demand, and then failing that, we've got 3 months demand down, where's that? Just down below 2K. So things really aren't looking that great at the moment, I have to say. But then also I don't want to say that just on a red candle. Excuse me. Anyway, this stream is slightly more haphazard than normal. It was more just I wanted to show some of the data sets. The other thing I've kind of done just as to preempt for month end is to look at, why is still running, is to look at where the 2 months are all going to be, whether, are we going to create 2 months demands, 2 months supplies. So, excuse me. Okay, so we've had a decent sized drop on Grayscale. So Grayscale is now obviously quite heavily through that daily level, but it is testing previous all-time high. For some reason that's slightly off. It might just be because it's a different time frame that I'm drawing it on. But yeah, so that's obviously dropped fairly significantly through the demand. It's unlikely to recover, but I guess we'll see. I've drawn the monthly supply. It's looking like this is going to make a monthly supply unless we get some epic bounce in the next 2 days. But just below that, we've got this 3 months demand. So at the moment, it's not that concerning. We'd like to see a bounce off the top of this 3 month demand, but obviously it can run a lot deeper into it if it wants. So do be aware of that and be careful. It does to some extent resemble the 2021 top, and in fact I also thought the better resemblance is to the 2019 top. And this is actually kind of where I feel like this is an overshoot and this is an extended 2019 wave. But yeah, we'll see. If we start to drop back and close back in this 3 month demand, if we then sort of see a retest of the all-time high fail, then we're potentially looking at a much bigger drop. But for now, while we're falling, it's not disastrous. That's Grayscale. Ether, actually I don't think I looked at Ether. So Ether, as I've said, this is weak demand, it's run through it, it's now taken out that whole monthly zone and it's holding, but again, so still holding this monthly, that's holding up the whole range. But from a supply demand perspective, so the usual, what it's saying is there's demand here, it's come back, it's made a decent move away from this zone, it's come back, it's made a decent move away from this zone, but it's been unable to break this supply. Then it's come back again, it's gone a bit lower in the zone, but it's still been unable to break the supply. So now we'd expect at least this low to be taken out. We've also got 1, 2, and now we're on a third hit on this zone. It's looking suspiciously like an inverse head and shoulders. Just delete everything there. But so we're looking either for these lows to be taken out and a bounce and holding this zone, or potentially now having had 1, 2, 3, this can potentially drop through. So be careful on this, be careful about being overly bullish on the market as a whole. And you can see similar here actually. You know, we had a demand here. It had a decent move away from it. It had a test, and it did take out the high in this case. It came back, but then it only bounced halfway before falling off. And this, in fact, has had weaker bounces coming off this level. So all up, this chart isn't looking that great at the moment, but don't be bearish at support. GDLC also looking pretty bad, running through. Now again, looks like it's going to close below this zone. Is going to create more than likely a monthly supply there as well. So all of this basically points to we need a really, really strong bounce in the next 2 days, or these are all going to create monthly supplies. We do have annual demand on most things below, and in Bitcoin we've got annual demand I think around 42k, which obviously everybody will freak out if it goes there, but again we're looking at a drop and a test and a lower high, so it's not surprising this is coming down, and it should go down into demand. While I'm here, I'll just look at some of the alts. So this BCH, when I did my last update on this, I said I expected this. Sorry, deleting some of the wrong things. I said I expected this to at least be dropping down into this 3-month demand, so that's got a little bit lower to go. It also, the 61 fib is a bit lower, so it could run inside there, but I'll be looking for a bounce on that relatively soon. GDLC we've done. GDLC is mostly made up of Bitcoin. I think it had a bit more previously. Litecoin, so there's another one, so may create a 2-month supply in there, but it's already, so that bounce we've had off Litecoin's a decent bounce, but again I wanted this lower, so the Litecoin chart from Grayscale isn't really resembling the Litecoin chart from that we're seeing on from the traditional, from our crypto exchanges. I was going to say traditional exchanges, I don't know if that really counts traditional from a crypto perspective. But anyway, so still holding demand here, but it's rejected off monthly supply. And again, I probably would look at this coming down lower. But we'll see. I mean, it's about one of the few things that's strong when everything else is super weak. ETC, I was kind of bullish on this before. I felt like this might run, but it's obviously dropped back to support here. But also is at support, so that's not horrendous, but is also going to create a monthly supply. So that's just generally a problem with all of these now, is that they're looking like they're going to create monthly supplies. GXLM, so this, we don't have Ripple on Grayscale. I think they did previously, but then they got rid of it. Again, now this has come back into 2-month demand, so 3-month a little bit lower. And now it's actually in 3-month supply, so I haven't got it drawn in, but this is still in a 3-month supply on the 2-month demand, but again, lower high, looking like this is going to want to come down much deeper, looking like it's going to create a monthly supply in there. So we're really going to need that strong bounce in the next couple of days. I won't look at the others. IBIT, I think, just basically resembles Grayscale, so again, it's not looking great here. It's going to close down below this daily zone and has a decent sized drop before it gets to 3-month demand. What else to look at here? The premium, actually, so just looking at the Kimchi Premium quickly, this turned out to be an extremely good indicator. So one of the things I warned of when we hit the top is that we'd had this extreme run we had this late run on Korea, and what you can note is from the 21 top, the 2018 top as well. I haven't got that drawn in, but here, so the 2018 top, the 2021 top, the 2024 top, and then the current top. You can see each run we've had a run on the Bitcoin Korea pair. And what is notable is that it happens after, so we hit the top, then the next, I need to check the period, but couple of weeks or whatever, we then see Korea push higher, or Bitcoin Korea push harder, and then thus this Kimchi Premium peaks, and then it starts to drop, and that's generally has been a pretty good top signal. So obviously 2024 isn't necessarily a top, but it was still a top for a 6-month consolidation. So this has obviously now dropped all the way back down again. But yeah, interesting that it was a fairly good indicator, and one of the things I said to be wary of when we hit the high at I think 100, 110k, had a couple of pumps on it, but ultimately has fallen. Dominance we've already looked at, so, and then total and all of those, again, they're just going to mirror what Bitcoin's doing. I will show you the monthlies. So again, monthlies on these are all critical, but looking fairly likely we're going to create monthly supply. So on most of these charts I've already drawn it in now because I'm assuming it's going to happen, and it's quicker for me to delete things than to add things again later. But yeah, it's looking like we're going to create a monthly supply, but we are coming into a 3-month demand. Total is as expected. Total 2 exactly the same. It's messy when I do everything on my low time frames, but again, total 2, which is sorry, total 2, which is crypto market cap minus Bitcoin, so therefore it tends to resemble Ether more than anything. That's already obviously come down quite heavily. It's in 2-month demand there. It's got a monthly a little bit lower, but then we've got this overarching double top, which is not great for the market. I'll look at it on the log scale, but it doesn't look as bad when you look at it on the log scale. But yeah, this overarching double top, we need to see the reaction here. So, you know, we've got 2 options. Are we going to get a reaction in here from now until a little bit lower that's going to take us up for a new high, and we're going to continue this uptrend? Or is this the top? And if this makes monthly supply, I'm more inclined to be bear biased, and we're going to come up into here, reject, and then fall. So, and it really isn't ideal having that monthly supply in there from that perspective. Total 3, which is also excluding Ether. So again, going to create, sorry, I thought I'd drawn some more of these monthly supplies in. So likely to create a monthly supply in here. All of these already had like 3-week and 2-week that we were already rejecting, and it's something I'd already said to watch out for, and I swear I've moved that line up to the top there multiple times. But yeah, again, this is coming down into the 3-month demand. So again, we could get a hold here and another push, and a lot of people are still thinking it's alt season, or we're going to get alt season. It's possible. Like I say, I don't want to be now bearish. I was bearish up here because I just don't think you should be bullish at resistance, but I don't want to be bearish at support particularly, even if it's a fairly large support. But we could get a bounce here. If it doesn't get that bounce here, then we're looking at a bounce deeper inside, but we're still retaining this like local uptrend. It's just being conscious of the fact that this could be a double top with a swing fail of the high. Others is exactly the same scenario. It's slightly weaker, so we had I was looking at potential wave extensions if we did run up, but this in fact was even weaker. It just swing failed the previous high and has now come down quite deep into this 2-month and now hit monthly demand inside, which I had alerted. And again, I've said previously, if this is a double top, then that's the next level of interest. But if it's a double top, then we would expect to potentially come back down into this yearly zone down here. Still holding the trend line in the bigger picture, still holding a little local uptrend, so it's not horrendous, but this is what really critical times that, again, if this is going to come up here, reject, that could be what we're looking at. This isn't going to create a monthly supply, at least in its favour, but I think already has a 3-week in there. Yeah, so it's already got a 3-week supply that's untested. So from an alt perspective, obviously, like I've said, you know, we can start looking at buying alts. We've had a bit of a drop on some of them, and obviously this is still, the others chart is still holding a higher low here from the drop we've had before. but we can look at least for a bounce on this, and then it's just what's going to happen here. You know, either we get alt season and then we just run straight through this zone, or this is not alt season and we're going to drop back. But again, we're on 2-month monthly demand, so there's no need to be completely bearish at this point. The other thing I just remember just to highlight that I've talked about previously is my concern on this was that the structure here that we do these triangles and then we do these distributions, and I was just slightly concerned that this isn't really a distribution so much, it's more of a triangle, but I was concerned that we were going to follow a similar structure to this and therefore break. So this obviously broke through the demand at the bottom of the triangle, and this is in the similar sort of area to potentially break through that demand. So but we just need to see. TOTALDEFI, I think, is pretty much the same. This also isn't going to make a monthly supply, but does have a 3-week supply. This is a much cleaner, just triangle and break up. So again, are we going to get a little bit more of a run here from this monthly demand, which then rejects there before a bigger drop? BTC dominance. I'm getting no people chatting to me today. How very dull. So BTC dominance, we came up into this 6-month supply. It's something we were looking for a while. You know, we've had a rejection here off the 2-month. I think this is a 2-month or a 3-month supply. So we did have a rejection there, but it picked up demand. So the higher time frame obviously is again still up on this. We may create a 2-month demand here. If we do create a 2-month demand here, I don't know what that will mean for. I think it's probably not going to be good for alts. Do we have a monthly? So yeah, again, we just need to see, are we going to get the reaction here that's going to drop this down? And then, as I've said previously, you know, if this does drop down, I think I put the 2-month demand in just to see. But if this does drop down now, is the money going to flow into alts, or is the money going to flow into US dollar dominance? And unfortunately, at the moment, it's looking like US dollar dominance, although I know a lot of people are still hoping that it's going to flow into alts. You know, Ether dominance is hitting 2-month demand, but again, we need to see more from this, because every time we sort of see it hitting a demand, it doesn't do anything. So, you know, it's down at least at the start of the impulse now, so maybe there's a little bit more hope for this, but again, we're not seeing anything. Like every low time frame move gets battered back down, and yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment. Just see what if we're going to make any new supply. So we got a bounce yesterday. This is actually looking quite bad. Are we dropping more now on the no, Bitcoin's still holding, but Ether's dropping a little bit more. I don't know how up to date this data is, but yeah. So again, looking for this to hold, and if Ether's going to have an up move, but yeah, Ether BTC is not doing anything exciting yet. Others dominance. So others dominance, I was a little bit indecisive about again. So we are in a big annual demand. We are in this triangle, we are at the low and at a potential swing fail of this triangle, and then overarchingly a 6 months. So we're moving back up here, but a lot of alts are going to create this 2-month supply, and it's not an ideal zone. Let me show you. It's not an ideal zone if it's only given a swing failure off the bottom, but again, it's not something I particularly want to trade against. So I'd need to see at least significant demand below in order to want to long right up into this green candle. So that makes me slightly concerned, but we are obviously getting a bit of a bounce. Some of the alts are bouncing today. Not much else to say on this. Yeah, so I guess from an alt perspective, we're seeing a lot of alts looking like this, without the wick actually in most cases, or in some cases we have the wick, but they've created a 5-day supply. So if we see these close above this 5-day, I wonder if it shows on the normal others chart rather than dominance. Yeah, so this is more like what alts are looking like, and just to give that example that In many cases, we had a lot of 3-week, 2-week, 5-day supplies up here. This is tighter than a lot of alts look. Some of the alts, this supply is much more spread out all the way down. So we've had this drop yesterday, we've closed below, and we've created this 5-day supply. And in some cases, alts have come back today to test that. In other cases, not. It just depends on the strength of the individual alt. Yeah, so we need to see that break through and flip to demand. For, again, to be more confident on longing alts. And then from a FIB perspective, this 3-week supply is going to be pretty critical if we go back up again. But yeah, so others dominance, while I like that we've held support here, I don't like that we're potentially going to make a 2-month supply. But this does have 2 days, it can easily get back up here in 2 days and negate that. I think DeFi was looking a little bit worse. Well, DeFi is already trying to reject off the monthly level, and again, it's back down. It has made a lower low, so is this going to have another bounce through here? It has made a swing fail at the low as well, so again, and into 5-day demand. Possible we get a bounce on alts from here, but again, I just don't love the amount of supply that's put in above and or is going to be confirmed if we stay down here for another 2 days. The other thing I was really looking at earlier was the equities equivalents. So again, virtually all of these I think are going to create that monthly or 2-monthly supply above. So coin, which is Coinbase, it's back down in 2-month demand here, but it is rejecting off a higher time frame or 6-month supply up there. Just move some lines, make it a bit easier to see. So again, you can see the loss of momentum here, so it's possible we pick up support, but it would not surprise me to see this break down at this point. And particularly again, if it puts that monthly supply in, it can hold, and I have seen equities, they can look weaker and then kind of say, well, this is a 2-month demand, so, and then just suddenly run from here. But again, monthly supply there, to see this wouldn't surprise me. BITO, I think, is pretty much the same. So again, it's got a monthly supply. In fact, it's already rejected off that level. Not sure if it really counts on equities. I haven't traded these enough to know if that counts as a test when it's really the candle that's going to confirm the monthly. But again, coming back into demand, this could continue to make a triangle and consolidate through here for more of an up move. So there's hope on this. RIOT. Another one, I think it already had a monthly supply there, or higher time frame even. It's got a 3-month supply in there. So again, tacking between 3-month demand and 3-month supply, but at this point, rejection of 3-month supply would expect to at least take out that low. But I think it's got a lot of choppy weekly demands in here that it could pick up. But yeah, given it's come back down in demand here, you would expect this to break out at this point, but then the fact it's dropping back down isn't ideal. Mara, go back up to the monthly. Again, it's going to create a 2-month supply there by the looks of it. Again, it's off a lower high, making that kind of supply off a lower high. I mean, to be fair, it made a 2-month here. But yeah, it's already had multiple tests on this 3-month demands, another 3-month a bit lower. So this could pick up support a little bit lower in here, but then again is going to have 2-month supply above. So I think all of these, like, really, unless we get some epic bounce in the next 2 days, I can't be particularly bullish on the market as a whole when everything's making monthly supply. HUT does have a 6-month demand, to be fair. It's hitting a 3-month inside the 6-month. Not the best 6-month there. And the 3-month obviously is very choppy. Yeah, so these are just kind of, so well, from an indices perspective, these are all, I remain indecisive. Again, if you look at this, we've got its up move, and this can still be that continuation of the downtrend. This is a very corrective move here, bear flaggish, and if it breaks down, we'll draw that in properly, but yeah, bear flaggish, and that you could see a bigger breakdown on this. And all these equities, they tend to reflect what the overall market's doing, the overall crypto market, should I say. And so even MicroStrategy's had a significant fall. So somebody said to me it was 55% fall. And when you look like this, it really doesn't look like a 55% fall, and this is the difficulty with looking at a log chart versus a linear chart, because a log chart really doesn't look that bad, does it? You know, this all looks like pretty bullish, pretty strong. Okay, it might have swing failed the all-time high, so that's probably not ideal. But then you flick it to linear, and you go, okay, hold on a sec, that's looking like really like a blow-off top. You know, that I'd be looking for it to hit this 3-month zone, really, and it's hit a weekly in between, but I don't know, you look back to this, you know, when it had the blow-off top back in, when's that? The year 99, 2000, that's a long time ago. I was trying to look at where Bitcoin made its previous high. I think, yeah, we can't really look at this because that's back. So, but 2017, 2018, that's when Bitcoin had its first top that I was involved in. Where I was, the end of 2018, wasn't it? So yeah, obviously MicroStrategy wasn't as involved there. This is when MicroStrategy started getting more involved. So obviously it ran up in 2021, and then since then it just looks very much like Bitcoin. And the problem we have here is that, you know, if that was the bull run for 2021 and we had that full retrace, if this is the bull run for this year, are we going to have a full retrace? And that's, yeah, going to be a major problem for MicroStrategy and for Bitcoin if we're now seeing this as a top. And again, it's going to put in a monthly supply. It's in weekly demand for now, so it could still get a decent bounce in the next 2 days. This could still very easily hold here. So again, I don't want to be overly bearish, but I would be very concerned if it makes a monthly supply, and then what's going to happen when it gets tested. Yeah, so that's about it of what I really wanted to share on all those, on all the charts. It's just those 2-month supplies. So I guess just a quick summary, because this has been a rather haphazard stream today. Not helped by my failing mic at the beginning. Let me just realign my charts. So summary of what we wanted on Bitcoin. I've got too much on this chart now. I'm going to have to hide. I'm going to hide all these entries and not be quite so. These are too low time frame, the entries that I wanted to offer on this chart. But anyway, so overarchingly, we had this consolidation that was sitting on top of a daily demand. We didn't want to close below this daily demand, and it's looking like it's heading in that direction, but we've still got a few hours left. Looking for a swing fail here by the end of the day, looking for a real strong bounce such that we don't create a monthly supply up at this level, 93,470, in 2 days' time. And that's going to be Friday, so CME is going to close the month on Friday. Yeah, so I'm really don't want to see a monthly supply created on this by Friday. So what we're going to want to see is that CME gap closed, and price close back in this range before the end of the week. From a day perspective, if this closes down here today, even that's not great. Summarizing the possibility of entries, like the perfect entries would be down here in 3-month demand below 72k. We've got 2 possible entries higher. There was a 4-hour demand, and we're currently at a 61 fib, but we've got a 4-hour demand here. There's a naked point of control around the 80k level, I think, and I put that in the alert. Yeah, there's another 4-hour at 80k with another naked point of control, and then there's a 12-hour demand here, and the bigger CME gap could get closed down there. So those are kind of interim levels that you could look for a bounce, but the preferred zone would be down below 70k. And the only reason I'm giving those interim levels is because it's similar to what we had here. So while my preferred entry would always have been down here, or even down on the lower zones, which we eventually got, I think, after however many months. Where are we? Move that out of the way. So August So yeah, after 6 months of sideways consolidation, we eventually got these levels that I really wanted to long from, but we had a lot of interim bounces. So I'm just conscious that if we are, that this could do the same, that we could get some interim bounces. But as always, watch the low time frames and see what the low time frames give you. Watch for confluence with the Korea chart, with the CME chart. So CME is going to have a 4 hour, probably around the same point as this, and then CME is also, it's got a retest of all-time high, I think, at that level. So CME is a bit of a challenge because of the adjusting the contracts. So we have, and it's obviously readjusted again. So we've got, if we look at the adjusted, the all-time high that just got swing failed is at 81,570. So again, that's at least a decent zone to look for confluence at that 4 hour. But if I undo the unadjusted chart, then obviously it's a lot lower, 73k, and then much lower back here. And I think this is to do with the contract rollover dates, and I don't know which one's more accurate, but in some cases I've just put both the lines on so you can see, so that's why this line looks like it's floating. But it is the adjusted previous all-time high. And then, you know, obviously the CME gap's lower, and then monthly demand, or 3 monthly demand on this is 71,500. So those are looking very much like those levels might be in play at the moment, you know, even if we do get a move back up first. The confluence with US dollar dominance, again, we've got this potential large double bottom. It wasn't perfect because it didn't hit the lower zone that would have been preferred down here. But if this is a double bottom, then it's very possible we go up to take out the previous high, and we took out the low, so we could go out and take out the previous high up here. However, we're now in supply, so we've just got to wait and see if the low time frames give us anything that looks tradable. Let me just flip this quickly as well. So yeah, we've got a little bit further before we get to the 61 fib. But that might be quite nice confluence if we do get a drift down into this 4 hour zone. We do got some reasonable confluence at this first 4 hour zone, while I don't like it. But it is the first 4 hour under the consolidation. But if we drift down into there, that is going to coincide with CME previous all-time high and potentially the 61 fib on the US dollar dominance chart. So that's, yeah, a quick summary of Bitcoin. Ether, again, just a quick summary. This was the area I was looking for a retest. Looking back at this consolidation over here, this did come a lot deeper, but you know, I was looking for the 61 to 70 fib. Might just make out that line there. There were sort of a couple of 5 day levels in there, but now we've got the sort of monthly level retest. From a bigger picture perspective, this is weak demand, so it doesn't surprise me we've come through it, although I didn't necessarily expect the giant wick. We have left equal lows at the bottom here, and I have alerted that because it was just a pre-alert in case it front ran the 3 month zone below, at least even for a scalp. From a confluence perspective, we've got CME hasn't tested those lower levels yet, and there is a CME gap still down there. So it is entirely possible we do come all the way back down. In fact, it's a bit higher. So the CME gap is 2170. So that would be down on the 88 fib. So again, we're just looking all in this area to see if we're going to get a higher low on Ether or a swing fail of the low. This also has a CME gap above. I'll talk about shorts more if once I actually see the bounce, because then I'll start doing, I can do fibs and things like that more reasonably. And Korea, again, we were just looking for the confluence there. I wanted to see Korea down in this 2 week demand compared to where it was consolidating above before. It's come down, and it's obviously now coming down deeper. Again, as I've said many times, this is a weak zone, same as the US dollar pair, so it doesn't surprise me that we're drifting through this, although you know, you can still potentially look for at least small scalps or small retracements off that level. Yeah, so we'll see how a little bit more of this plays out. wondering if I should look at the majors again quickly. I might do a very quick run through of the majors because I did change some of the zones a little bit. So we've had some hit and some not. So EOS has not come down to where I wanted it to. It does have a monthly demand. It hasn't quite retested that level yet. I wanted it down on this 5-day inside just generally because I think EOS is one of the weaker ones. And this is going to create a new monthly supply, barring a huge bounce in the next 2 days. So I've got a more aggressive short on that, but that's just, I think I put 4-day, then 3-day supply, and also then also 1 monthly above there. So we'll just see what happens in that area. Litecoin, I had a nice long entry which did get hit, so I hope you managed to get in there. I also throw in a short entry on 1 2-day supply up there just to see, but again it could just potentially bounce around between these two levels. But that's obviously one of the stronger bounces that we've had. I think obviously everybody's still expecting ETF approval to pump this. So I think if you can get in on the long side, then that's useful. But yeah, we just need to see what happens off this supply here, if it's going to push back through it. Ripple has just sort of dropped out. I did have a long entry, which I think I spoke about in the last stream, for a retest of this 3-day demand, because it hadn't quite hit on that previous alert, and obviously it went through that. Ripple then obviously is a 3-day demand much lower and a 3-day demand much lower again, so I need to reset those alerts. But yeah, I was going with the lower 3-day because Ripple tended to like to run zones when it does drop. But we need to see, you know, it's still holding this local range. It's got a deviation of the high and it's got a wick of the low, so again we just need to see if it's going to hold through this area. And finally BCH, again I wanted lower on this. I wanted this monthly zone further down. It hasn't quite got there. It could still hold a higher low because it did swing fair on the previous wick. My other concern on BCH as well was the possibility of it taking a lot more of these trend line stops down here, so just be a bit careful. This also is potentially going to create a 2-month supply. You can see it's very close to price, so we need to see how this closes. This could well get negated in the next 2 days if we get a bounce, so we'll just see. But I might be more aggressive on shorts if this does create a 2-month supply. But still need to think about this because it is in a 6-month demand as well. I did look at all of these, and beyond Litecoin, I looked at all of these, the BTC pairs. Litecoin's the only one with a halfway decent BTC pair. So like none of these I really particularly support longs on because they were all basically at all-time lows. Then BNB. So BNB, my alert did go for this 12-hour demand here. It did have a decent bounce, but it didn't actually quite hit the level, so I've reset the alert and we'll just see. That short worked out rather well that I had off daily supply up there, and I did have another one on 4-hour here, something I need to think through a little bit more. So potential retest of this 12-hour if the market's going to hold. You can look for a long if it comes back and takes out that low. And then failing that, I've also reset an alert for the yearly level if it comes back down here for a retest of the yearly level down there. But overarchingly, I was obviously bullish on BNB, and I think the BNB BTC pair looks okay as well. I don't want to go run into those charts right now though, so I'll just hide that. Link hit 6-month demand, held, but again we need to see whether this is going to hold any period of time. It does have a thing of 3-month and a monthly deeper inside there, which that would be the next level of interest if it doesn't hold the top, bounce off the top of this level. I changed out Pole because I don't think anybody's particularly interested in it because nobody really knows it's Matic, or it was Matic. I put Dogecoin in instead because obviously people seem to like that a bit more, so I thought that might be more fun to chart. Yeah, so this is likely to create a monthly supply, but that's up here. Let me just check. Yeah, because I haven't actually drawn that in. So yeah, this is likely to create a monthly supply, but it is obviously much higher than current price. And it's currently down in 3-month demand, so I haven't done full analysis on this for the stream as yet. So This does have an annual demand here, so that's really where I'm going to be looking for long entries. The alert is actually not set, so I need to set this alert. For some reason this is not set and it's annoyingly moving around right now, but so this is an annual demand. So I've got a moment an aggressive short on weekly supply in here. If this hits after, I will take this out if this hits first. So I would like to see a test of that level coming into the weekly supply and then dropping down into this annual demand, but I won't be looking for shorts except on potentially on this monthly supply if this hits annual demand first. But yeah, so we're really looking for longs on this annual demand, and hopefully it won't come deeper inside, but initially you're looking for a long bounce off the top, and if not, then there's a 2 month in there deeper, and then there's a weekly even deeper again. And the risk on this, as I've said previously, is that, again, this can just still be a bearish retest. We have this last up move, and now we've got what's a relatively corrective move here. We've got into the last supply. Is this going to now just fall? And I don't want to say that on this. I'm not bearish on this, but I just want to highlight that just to be wary. We do have an annual demand here, so my first instinct is to go with supply and demand. So I want to see this annual demand hold, and ideally hold somewhere reasonably high, rather than potentially running all the way back down to the start. And the other trade-off there is this range. And again, this is an annual demand, sure, but it's been unable to. It's not an annual demand that's broken supply, therefore it's not necessarily a strong annual demand. However, I do on Link and BNB, we did see very, very strong moves when they hit the annual level. Well, not very strong in the case of Link, but still it was reasonably strong. So I would like to see a decent move off Dogecoin when it hits this level. ADA, I had an alert in for daily demand here, which I said to watch because this obviously had been one of the stronger ones just before it, but it's fallen back through it. I've reset the alert for 6 months demand on this, just to see if we hold a higher low. The other risk on this is that we're now going to create a monthly supply. So I need to see what more of what these structures do, as and when. I think the monthly supplies are looking fairly likely to be confirmed now, and then we'll just see. We need to see how the bounces hold on demand and whether these monthly supplies are strong or weak. So in most cases at the moment they're weak because we do still have much higher time frame demand below. So obviously in the case of BNB we've got the 2 month and a yearly. Actually it's not going to create a monthly supply anyway, barring a really huge dump in the next 2 days. Link isn't going to create a monthly supply either, I don't think, and is on 6 months demand. Doggy, as I've just said, has yearly demand coming up there, so while it's got monthly supply, that could well go through it, and the same with ADA, it's going to have 6 months demand, but monthly supply, again, 6 months strictly should run through it. And then finally on the rest of the new majors, we've got DOT, SOL, Atom and NEAR. So, I'm going to look at the monthly charts. So, Atom, I believe, is going to create a monthly supply, yeah, I think I've already drawn it in there, possibly even a 2 month in there. I need to make these a little bit clearer. Again, was looking for, ideally, for this to give me a move up to the 4 day supply in there. I didn't have an alert in on this last candle, but I had alert for a long on the previous. Did get a small push, but again, couldn't get up through supply. I haven't got any long entries on this because I just overarchingly don't like it. It's coming from a yearly supply or a 6 month supply at the highs. So I really want this to go back down lower. So my next alert is on the 2 week demand right down the bottom there if it gets there, and then also more aggressive on the shorts with the 4 day for the original initial alert, and then the monthly above that. NEAR as well, I did have a more an aggressive long entry on there just to see if we were going to get the higher low, because it looked like it wanted to push, but it ended up just being a swing fail of the high before dropping back down again. This is also going to create a 2 month supply. I put an alert on the 2 day just inside that for a short, and then for longs back down on this 3 month demand. So again, just in bit in no man's land on that. And DOT similar, so DOT's, I think that people are more bullish on this because they think it might get an ETF, and I'm not sure about that, but yeah, so this is holding a monthly demand here, but so this could get a run from here, but it's sort of similar to the Ether structure. It's a weak monthly demand. It's made a monthly demand, but it's been unable to break the high, so it's a weak monthly demand, so it is possible it still wants to run through, or it still can still run through to lower demand. But we can watch this, you know, so I think, as I said on alts earlier, we've got 5-day supplies on everything, so these big purple areas on all of these, except for Sol, which is slightly different, and I'll get to in a moment. So if these come through and they can flip them to demand, even if we reject here, we can potentially look for demand entries on retests. Sol is looking rather unfortunate at the moment, so again, this was my concern with Sol, so it's got a 2-month demand in here, it's still holding for now. But again, that structure that I drew earlier in the stream, and what we saw on Ripple on a lower time frame, this like giant triangle fake out and then drop back through, and then again taking all these stops from the low is a possibility on this. And again, like, you know, I still put the alert in the hope that, you know, even if it doesn't, even if it does want to go for the stops, that, you know, we might get a bounce in between. But so far this is actually the weakest of all the majors, which isn't great, and is looking like it's going to create a daily supply today as well. It's already got a 12-hour in there, so I'm not loving the look of this, unless Bitcoin bounces and takes it back up. So I've thrown in a new alert, so there is a monthly demand below, so then that would take out this wick, so we can see what happens when we get around here. And then again, this is going to create a monthly supply up here. So again, I've gone more, I already had I think an alert even for a retest of this zone, but this is looking, I'm looking more probable. And again, we've got, you know, on this overarchingly, we've got the swing fail of all-time high. We've got the BTC pair looking horrendous on this as well. So that's also not great. Yeah, so generally, while obviously I'd like to see this give another up move, and again, and with a lot of these alts, as I said previously, you know, this is hard because we've got so much chop, so, you know, you could reject the first one, we could reject the higher one, we could go all the way to the top. But I'm just looking at the highest time frame zones that I've got available. So on this, I think there's a weekly supply in there as well, but we're going to have this monthly put in, so that would be the first level that I'd look for potential shorts on this. But Sol really isn't looking that nice at the moment, despite being on demand. And what's the actual demand is over here. Yeah, I'm not overly confident that this is going to hold here, but we shall see. But there's certainly better alts to be looking for longs on anyway. So yeah, that's kind of all the majors. Alerts, the alerts are just coming through as they normally do, and getting mixed results. We had a really nice move off BNX finally after it let a re-entry happen. Pi, some of the group have been trading. I was actually hoping for a break of this trend line for a short, but it just kept moving up from there. Liquidity and LDO are two that I've said to keep an eye on before. You know, they are like LDO is in a monthly demand, and Liquidity was in a monthly, but obviously came, I think actually might have been in a much higher. The problem we've got with so Liquidity is actually in a 6-month demand, but obviously it's come all the way down to the bottom of it. I think it was a weak 6-month anyway, but it's come all the way down to the bottom. But so I was initially looking for a bounce off this monthly demand in here for that alert, but then I said, okay, it actually looks like, I think there were quite a few stops below this orange line, yeah, so I said it looked like it might swing fail, and I gave that update in the last stream, saying that look for a swing fail of this low here. I'm not sure if it's actually taken out the low. It hasn't actually quite taken out the low there, so keep an eye on this for possible swing fail there. Excuse me. And then that maybe, if that can hold, that could give another move, another decent move up. And LDO similarly, it's got 3-month demand, and it keeps moving on my levels around, so it keeps. Let me just drink something. And a frog in my throat. Okay, so this is overarchingly is in a 3-month demand, but it'll obviously bounce off the top there, but it'll come down deeper inside it and has been made a monthly supply. So this is, or actually is that 2-month and new? No, so it's already got a 2-month supply up there. So yeah, I don't love this as much actually now looking at the high time frame, but it does have a monthly demand here, so it's worth keeping an eye on this to see if you get a bounce. It's going to also create a monthly supply there now, which is less ideal. But LDO is something worth watching, as it's one of the ones that's been at least slower to come down and hit that monthly demand, whereas so many others have now gone all the way through it. What else do we have on the alerts? I think I actually had a couple of shorts more than anything, and some longs hit yesterday. Ray has hit as a possible long today. This has come back out down into monthly demand. It was coming off yearly supply, so you can see what happens on Ray if this is going to give a reaction off this monthly demand here. BERA or Bear, I don't know if that's BERA. Had a good reaction off 3-day demand there, but it's gone back up into 4-hour supply. And yeah, that's about it. I think, you know, there's a bunch of other, so MDT has come through as a 3-month demand since this stream has been going, and Cake as well, 12-hour demand, but I've got that coming from a year supply. I think I reset that, I think it went yesterday, but didn't quite hit the level. But anyway, I want to sign off now so I can actually carry on with the Ps. So I had finished most of them, but I really want to get finished with the watch list updates for the end of the year, because we're now almost at the end of February. But it takes its time, but I don't have to keep all the alerts updated, but I like to, and I certainly like to have it. Gives me a good idea of what the market's doing. Yeah, so anyway, this has been a slightly haphazard stream, but I hope I can give you, at least given you some idea of where things might bounce, and then we'll see what happens and whether you should be in fear or not. But yeah, you can probably be in relative fear because this is not looking that great at the moment. Yeah, so tomorrow I will try and do the stream on the Ps, and then on the 28th or the 1st I'll do another update on a bigger update on Bitcoin, etc., just to see where those monthly closes have been, and I'll try and keep them a bit more succinct. But yeah, again, I just wanted to show a little bit of the 2-day supply there now. I wanted to show a little bit of the data that I've been looking at, because that's important, and it has been pretty helpful to be able to have, like I was just looking for the day after, the data the day after the fact, and it's now quite useful to have this data to see if the ETFs are selling or buying a bit earlier or in real time rather than in with hindsight. So I don't think it hasn't been anything new since I started the stream now anyway, I don't think. Maybe one with the wisdom tree ones was new 58, 59 minutes ago, yeah. So we had a couple of new sales since the start of the stream. Yeah, so anyway, as always, questions in chat, join my Telegram, please like and subscribe if you're interested and want to see more and want to support me. And yeah, have a good evening.